Hey everybody, welcome back to Throttle Grotto. Why am I bundled up like a snowman today? Find out on this week's episode of Throttle Grotto. So, it's probably obvious why I'm bundled up like a snowman right now, or an orange, maybe a jack-o'-lantern or something, but it's cold. I know some of you guys in the other parts of the country don't feel bad for me, but it's like below 40 degrees in my garage. And I'm not going to turn the heaters on because I'm not going to be out here very long tonight. I do have little tiny heaters, but I don't think they're that effective. So my dog's got a coat of fur, and she is just fine. But anyway, so I have a couple questions from people on the channel, and I figure I would start out by answering those. One of the questions that I've gotten is, how did I come up with a swallowtail specific heater core? And the answer is, I didn't. I'll show you the swallowtail heater core, and I'll explain why I wasn't able to get one of those. So this is a 75-76 early Rabbit heater core. Dimensionally, it's the same as a late model car. The biggest difference is this here. The early cars, they have this bolted together connection made out of plastic, which goes on the top of the end tank. And although I haven't seen these things fail, I suspect that the reason that they didn't do it like this anymore is actually this part stuck out of the firewall about this far, and then the hose is clamped on here. So kind of like a later car where the pipes actually come through the heater, through the firewall, and then clamp on here. I suspect that this part here had a lot to do with why they changed it. So the later cars have a heater core that stops about here, and then the hoses, the rubber hoses, actually come through the firewall and attach inside the car. So either way, you have a leak point inside the car. So I figured they just minimized it by making only one leak point inside the car and none outside. So I wasn't able to find a swallowtail or 75 specific heater core, but I was able to still buy a brand new heater core that fits the late model cars, and it retrofits to the early model cars. So Dustin, I hope that answers your question on early versus late heater cores. Another question I've been getting a lot is questions about cleaning products. I'm going to go into that, but I'm not going to go into that right now. I'll go into like polishing and cleaning and stuff like that later on when I actually get to the point where I'm ready to do that stuff on this car. I've got a few spots, maybe in the next week or two, that I'm going to spot polish. A lot of the products I use on the Rabbit are going to be the same as I used after, if you watch the Prius Rallycross damage video, there's a lot of the same products and procedures that I would use on that car I'm going to use on here. The big difference is the Rabbit is a single stage paint job, so you have to be a little more careful. You don't have the luxury of clear coat to play with. So let me show you a few more things that I've been able to get done so far this week, but like right now I'm really behind. I spent a whole bunch of time chasing down parts, like basically a whole day junkyard hopping, trying to come up with parts that I was missing. I have boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff just kind of flung everywhere right now. My garage is a complete disaster, and the stuff that I had set aside was not the right stuff at all. So let me grab the camera here and show you guys some of the stuff that I've been able to do so far this week. Tomorrow I'm going to film a whole bunch more, and I'm going to combine this all into one big episode. So So you know it's cold in the garage when your dog doesn't even want to be out here. She wants to go back in the house where it's warm. Great. So first thing I was able to pick up, move some stuff around here, is I was able to pick up an alternator. So yes, it is a used alternator. I do need to take it to the auto parts store tomorrow and have them test the alternator to make sure it works. So if it doesn't, I'll take it back to the junkyard and probably invest in a new one. But for a temporary measure, this will bolt in and get all my pulleys, and you know, for 15 or 20 bucks if it works, awesome. So the next thing I got, well, let's see. So the next thing I was able to get was, well, I've already cut up a bunch of it, but this is what's left of the AEB engine, which is the one that I have, of the alternator and AC mounting bracket, and also this is where the power steering bump mounts. I had to go get a bracket because I thought I had one, and I was really wrong. I did not have any kind of brackets at all. So this is part of the stuff that I had setting aside for this car. I've had two 1.8T alternator brackets. Both of them were apparently for later model engines, and I did not have the right parts. So I had to spend a day going around to the junkyard and getting parts. So now that I have kind of roughly trimmed this alternator bracket to fit into the car. There we go, that's good light. I still need to go back through and use my flap wheel and clean a bunch of this up. I might trim it down. See if I can get, there we go. Sort of get some light in there. There. I'll probably trim some of this down, trim some of this down. I just wanted to get it in the car and make sure that it fit like it's supposed to. One of the other things that I've noticed is that I think I have the wrong, wow, I have the wrong type of lights for you working in here. I have the wrong intake manifold. A lot of people that are doing these swaps, or have done these swaps in the past, I should say, have used a intake manifold with the throttle body on the other side of the manifold. So I'm going to rummage through all my stuff and see if I have the manifold with that configuration. The other thing that I ended up missing was the front motor mount bracket and cup for the so I actually had to go, I found a Scirocco that was in a junkyard and was able to get the front motor mount off and got the front motor mount, the cup. So all I need now is a rubber snubber. That's easy to come by. So when you're doing these projects, it's super easy. I don't know how, but it's super easy to lose boxes of stuff. Between moving a few times, being in storage, out of storage. I don't really know what happened to a lot of these things that I thought I had set aside for this car, and it's a little frustrating. But you know, fortunately, it's all been fairly easy stuff to come by. I also picked up a water pipe from the Scirocco, so I have an 8-valve water pipe which will snake around the block and head back towards the heater core with a apparently new, or very new, close to new heater control valve in it, which was awesome. So, and the other thing that I got, go back over to the workbench. Pretty satisfied with this junkyard purchase. And I know a lot of you guys are probably saying I'm an idiot for buying junkyard parts, but I'm trying to get this thing done on a budget. If I get it done, I get it running, I can do a lot of shakedown on it. I know it would be ideal to do a lot of this build with new parts, but honestly, I just don't have the funds to get the car done and then try to scrape all the money together to get it to Germany and go to Worthersee and ship the car and all that kind of stuff. So I still have a ton of stuff to buy, so I'm trying to be really frugal with my money. But the car that I was getting the alternator and bracket off had a good condition stock turbo. So very, very little shaft play. The shaft spins real nice. I think that it will be good for initially setting this up, getting it running, driving it for a while. If I want to upgrade to a KO4 down the road, I can certainly do that. But one of the benefits of this turbo is that the stud is not broken off in the turbo itself. So I have 3 good holes. It's just a real quick job to swap it out, bolt it up, and then I don't have to worry about taking it in and trying to get the bolt extracted or anything like that. So that is been my week so far. On my day off I had earlier this week, I had a long day at work, and I came out to the garage for a little bit to kind of take a mental inventory of what I need to do tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll be working on the Rabbit. I've got wiring harness to do. I've got tons and tons of stuff just to get this project continually progressing towards running. So that's going to be all for tonight. I'm going to go back inside where it's warm, and I have another thing to show you guys tomorrow, but it's outside, so you'll have to wait till tomorrow morning to see that, which will be only moments for you guys. So till then. Good morning, everybody. It is a little bit warmer out here in the shop. As you can tell, I'm not completely bundled up with a big old orange jacket on, so it's a little bit warmer today. I figured I'd get a little bit earlier start and try to get some stuff done. So I worked a little bit off camera, but I did get my alternator back from its alternator test, and my used alternator checked out perfect, so that's good. So I was able to save some money there. I know that at some point down the road I'm going to have to buy a new alternator, but for right now this gives me something to get it in, get it running, use it for a while, and then, you know, at some point every new part is a used part anyway. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to use some used parts, some new parts. Definitely used parts where it makes sense, and new parts where we obviously I'm not going to use like used brake pads, stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and toss the alternator in. I'm going to check on pulley alignment and stuff. I've got some suspicions about my water pump pulley not being the right offset, so I'm going to have to be creative with that. But let's get it in the car and check it out. So my suspicions were confirmed that the water pump pulley that I have does not have the right offset. So I'm going to have to find a serpentine pulley with a 3-bolt pattern that fits a water pump that has another, about another half of a pulley width offset to make this work. So I might have to use I think the VR6 water pump pulleys have a deeper offset, but I can't remember. So, but good news is, let me move the light here because my lighting in here is terrible. And you can see everything in here is a really tight fit. I've got the alternator in, the bracket, the tensioner is really close to the frame rail, but I think it's going to be okay, especially when I can knock that ear off if I have to. The water pump pulley is really the only one that doesn't line up right, but I've got plenty of opportunity to move that in deeper. So I know all this stuff has to come off so I can clean up that water pump bracket. Or, sorry, yeah, the alternator mounting bracket still needs to come back off the car. And I'm going to clean that thing up and make it look a little bit nicer. It looks pretty terrible right now. One more thing that I picked up is somewhere along, I am finding so many things that I thought I had. Let me rephrase that. I have been unable to find so many things that I thought I had in this garage that pertained to saving for this car. I had a Mark III wiper motor. I've had motor mounts, bolts, all this stuff that I thought I had set aside, and somewhere along the way I've misplaced it. So, speaking of motor mount bolts, I wasn't able to find the motor mount bolts that I thought I had. So, fortunately, I went to the hardware store. I think I went to Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace, all those places have these huge bolt bins now. They have stainless bolts, they have stainless hose clamps, they have metric. It used to be you'd go in there and they didn't have metric stuff. Well, now they do. And I was actually able to go into Lowe's and off the shelf buy M10 by 1.5 in a 90 millimeter length. It's a little bit longer than the original. I think the original was 81 millimeter. But I was able to go in and buy a brand new 10.9 grade bolt, which is equal or greater to the original bolt. And I could buy brand new hardware. I didn't have to go rooting around in the junkyard for it. Or I found a car in a junkyard that had one, but it was I didn't really feel like dropping two of the motor mounts out of the car just to get bolts. So I already had the passenger side one. The driver's side one I needed, and you can see here it's a little bit long. I'll probably just come through with a wire wheel and cutting disc, and just knock the end of that off to make it not stick out so far. That is it's a good tip if you need bolts. Sometimes it's just easier to go buy a brand new one than it is to try to root around junkyarding to find the original one. If you're a stickler for original, then yes, you're going to have to go junkyarding. But you could always cut this down and taper the end of it to make it look like a factory bolt too. So enough rambling about bolts. Let's get back to work. Alright, so I didn't want to bore you with the details, but I got the lower bracket all put in. I cut a bunch more off of it, kind of cleaned it up with a flap wheel just to smooth it out. Not going to have time to polish this item or anything like that. It's just going to be in there and kind of a raw, natural finish like it came from the factory. So, but that's okay. I'm fine with that. If I want to get crafty over another winter and pull the whole thing apart and polish everything, that's, I got plenty of time in the future to do that. So, first step is to get all the bugs worked out and get it running, and hopefully get this car to Germany for a couple of weeks of driving. So, next up, I'm not sure. So the next thing I should work on is I should swap out that turbo with the broken stud in it and get that put in so I don't forget to do it. Not that I would, but I have the parts here and I can swap it out. I've already kind of started laying the wiring harness in the car to figure out where it needs to go. I may be lengthening some of the wires. I've still got to get a wiring diagram and figure out what wires I don't need so that I can cut out the stuff I don't need. Still need a throttle cable. I still need to make a mount for the throttle cable. There's still tons and tons and tons of stuff to do on this car. So I'll get the turbo swapped out so that that's done, and we'll just keep plugging away. After some coercion, I was able to get the turbo back in. I set my intercooler in here just for some comparison type stuff. I don't know if I'm going to use this one or not, but there's still so much to do on this car before I get it ready to ship off. So I'm going to call that a wrap for today. I was able to get a fair amount of stuff done on this car. I've got another car that I'm helping a friend of mine out on, so I'll catch you guys up to speed on that on the next episode. I was going to cover it today, but just kind of running out of time, and it's getting cold out and it's dark, and I can't really film outside when it's dark, so I don't have enough light. So more parts came in for this today. I've got a whole rear disc brake conversion that showed up from a friend of mine, and so I'll probably work on putting that on tomorrow. But all the stuff I'll do tomorrow I'll compile in the next week's episode, because I got a whole bunch of actual work I have to do this week. Nobody likes actual work, but I got to pay the bills somehow. So that will be the end of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Feels a little more disjointed, but right now this project feels kind of disjointed to me, just because there's so many parts and pieces that I'm missing, that I thought I had, that I don't, that I've got to come up with. I'm trying to get everything in the engine compartment so that I can start working on making the tubing for the the boost tubes. I got to run stuff to the intercooler. I got to figure out where the intercooler is going to be. Make brackets. Do I need to make end tanks? Do I need to just get a completely different intercooler? So there's a lot of things that I have to figure out at this stage. I need to get the wiring hooked up. I need to order a wiring harness tonight so that I can wire the car. So that I need something that I can hook the Audi wiring harness to get power to it. So I've got to do a whole bunch of research on standalone wiring harnesses, because I don't want to put original stuff back in here. So a lot of things to figure out and troubleshoot and come up with solutions for. So that's kind of where I'm at in this stage of the project. But I will bring you more updates next week, and hopefully I will be a little better about filming all of the updates. So until next time, thanks for watching Throttle Grotto. Don't forget to subscribe and get out there and work on something.